In this short video essay, I will be arguing that authorship is not exclusive to directors. Authorship, in its simplest form, is anyone involved in film production who has a discernible style. This means when you watch a film of theirs, it is instantly recognisable, such as a Tim Burton film or a Tarantino film. Authorship, further explained. The theory, or as it was first described, policy, was first written about by Francis Truffaut in the early 1940s. At the time, French cinema, he believed, was quite flat and wooden. The studios were more concerned with translating classical text to screen in the safest possible way, preserving their original identity. This became even more apparent to Truffaut as he compared his films to those in Hollywood. At the time, the most notable directors were Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles. They felt directors like Hitchcock and Welles were able to put their mark on their films, and you were able to tell them apart, much like with famous artists. You could recognise a Van Gogh painting the same way you could recognise a Hitchcock film. He and a group of others began studying film, and eventually Truffaut released an article called A Certain Tendency in French Cinema. This article was Truffaut's way of trying to encourage directors to use the camera as an artist would use a brush. He argued a great director can imprint their own identity regardless of the story. Directors who could communicate visually like this were called auteurs. The auteur I will be talking about today is Tarantino. I'll be running through some of his many different cinematic techniques that made me instantly know it's a Tarantino film. One of his most notable, ultraviolence, is very often used in Tarantino's films, and he's regularly critiqued over it. When he first initially started making films, this would have been used as a shock factor to make the audience uncomfortable. Now, because it has become so ingrained in his authorship, audiences come to expect it. Stars. Tarantino loves reusing actors in his films. Sam Jackson, Tim Roth, and Michael Madsen have all been at least 3 of his films. Narrative. Tarantino loves to play with the linear narrative. Whether to confuse the audience or keep them guessing, it is most notably seen in Pulp Fiction, where the opening scene with Pumpkin, played by Tim Roth, and Honey Bunny, played by Amanda Plummer, is also the ending sequence, completing the circular narrative that he's created throughout the film. Non-linear timelines are another one of his auteur techniques, seen again in Pulp Fiction and The Hateful Eight. Pulp Fiction doesn't follow a clear linear narrative. There are instances throughout the film where it starts to become clear to the audience we're not watching the story unfold chronologically. Vincent Vega, played by John Travolta, dies in a Gold Watch chapter of the film. However, the film's closing sequence follows Vince and Jules, played by Sam Jackson, into a traditional American diner. This is the narrative resolution of Jules' storyline. However, we as an audience know Vincent's story is yet to come. This idea of playing with the narrative is also used in The Hateful Eight. The whole film is a big mystery, where the audience and the characters are stuck in a shack with a bunch of strangers, and one of them is lying about who they are. Right as it seems that we're about to get our answers, we are then instantly transported to before the film in a flashback. His incessant playing with narrative conventions can be seen throughout his films. All this accumulating together, you have a clear argument in saying Tarantino is an auteur. So now we know what an auteur is. I want to argue this isn't limited to directors. The reason directors are usually labelled the auteur is because they have the most creative control over the production. But I believe other roles in the production process can be influential and recognisable, and therefore could also hold the title of auteur. The role I will be focusing on is the actor. I'll be referencing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Jack Nicholson to prove my point. One Flew, directed by Milos Forman, is an adaptation of the novel written by Ken Kesey in 1962. This film is great when talking about the auteur debate because it's a Forman film. He in his own right is an auteur, and One Flew demonstrates many of his techniques. However, this isn't what I'm discussing today. This film made many, including myself, believe that Nicholson is an auteur in his own right. Many of his infamous roles follow a distinct, discernible style. He often plays characters that feed into his manic, dynamic screen persona. Characters such as the Joker from Batman 1989 and Jack Torrance from The Shining 1980. McMurphy, his character in One Flew, is no different. In fact, this character is argued to be his quintessential role, a maverick who disrupts the status quo. Nicholson's filmography shows us he has the ability to work across multiple genres, and some of the most successful directors of all time want to work with him. From Scorsese to Burton to Kubrick, Nicholson has worked with them all. But how does this make him an auteur? Does he have a discernible style? Definitely. Does he leave his own mark on his projects? Yes. Some of the films he's been a part of are infamous for his performance, such as The Shining. He ticks all the boxes for being an auteur without being the director, or author, so to speak. This is why I believe we shouldn't be limiting the title to directors, but in fact embracing distinct style and personality at all levels of film production.